So today on Remote Control, we're taking a very different look today at what some people figure is the best science fiction magazine of the 1980s. Now, beginning in 1981 with the great Ted or T.D. Klein as editor, the Twilight Zone Magazine, known by some as Rod Serling's The Twilight Zone Magazine, featured many articles, both fiction and non-fiction, as a tribute to Rod Serling's legacy as kept alive by Carol Serling and the Serling's estate. Now, in these magazines, there was a unique format. It had non-fiction reviews and also fantasy form into the horror genre, science fiction. Now, as it was nicknamed, the TC magazine also reviewed and previewed new movies while publishing articles about the Twilight Zone, its original and revival, and that was a new Twilight Zone that was on CBS in the mid-80s. It also had scripts of previous Twilight Zone episodes published in the back area, Outer Limits, Night Gallery, all the great science fiction shows that were either created by Serling, inspired by Serling, or had a great impact. Now, when I really first started reading the magazine, I found it a kind of a knockoff on Omni, but as it got better, with better layout in the front and better articles and better contributors, it was initially very successful. By my last year of high school, it was selling 125,000 copies a month, which is I was outselling that other great magazine, Analog. But under Klein's editorship, the magazine published several noted writers, including everybody from Harlan Ellison to Stephen King to Pieter Straub, Joost Carol Oates. But when Ted, as we nicknamed him, left in 1985, it kind of went more Hollywood. It lasted another 3 years, from March 86 to June 89, and it was for some of the most reliable market for some of the best short horror writing. It also had contests for up-and-coming writers to send in their submissions, and they would be judged. Now, what's kind of weird about the Twilight Zone magazine now, it's on certain sites you can get public domain scanned versions. You can read every issue online, which I don't know if that's legal or not. But what I really found about this it was the connection between Stephen King, Harlan Ellison, the Rod Serling generation like mine, and the modern era. But it was typically a book of the 90s, because in the 1990s it was all science fiction was a thinking man's game. It wasn't special effects like it is now. Most science fiction, if it went intellectually superior now, it wouldn't last. But what I really enjoyed was the movie reviews, because they would basically give thumbs up to movies that would never get a thumbs up, and you would review it from a science fiction or a fantasy connection. But we had some really weird reviews in the book. Stephen King did a review of The Evil Dead. It had also features on films like Blade Runner, Gremlins, The Thing, David Lynch's Dune, but some of the other film reviews were not in there, like the Alien series and different stuff. But it felt like a digest, but it wasn't a digest. It felt like a glossy. It wasn't a glossy. And what was bizarre about this, it was a porn company that was publishing this. This was obviously not a sexual book, but the main company that kept it going used the money from its porn operations to keep this magazine afloat. Now, you can probably find old copies of Twilight Zone magazines, especially American yard sales, American antique shops. It's very similar to Rolling Stone because of the amount of publications per month, 50,000 or 120. You can find some, and it's basically, it smells like the 1980s. The Twilight Zone magazine had a specific smell. They had glossy pages in the middle with the paper pages on either side. And I mean, some of the early magazines, some really great writing, and kind of a fan magazine, but not a fan magazine, and it just a tremendous read. I really treasure my years reading Twilight Zone magazine. My first years as a journalist at the Lousy News, I would take a break from assignment and sit down with my cup of tea at the office and watch and read Twilight Zone, and I would read it from cover to cover. But really, in the internet generation now, you can have all the episode guides for free. But back then, that was the only place you could see the episode guides or the scripts, and the best of the best was in there. And the layout was just tremendous. It was one of the most best laid out magazines of the 1980s. Again, on this cold February day, we're waiting for some better weather to come in. if you have a chance to look at your old Twilight Zone magazines, you just remember a time where science fiction writing was all about the head and not about the pocketbook. Hope this finds you well. Have a good day. Bye.